Good morning and welcome to Topline Talks, a Mackie Myers podcast hosted by myself, Jenna Mackie, and unfortunately I'm flying solo today as Owen's had a few car troubles. We are a finance and executive recruiter, and the purpose of this podcast is to bring inspiring stories from leaders across the sector. This episode we are joined by Mark Williams, who is currently the CFO at Tropic. So welcome to the pod.
Thank you.
Purpose of, I guess, today we'll hopefully go a little bit about your career history, a little bit about the sector in life sciences. It'd be really interesting, I think, to talk about fundraising specifically, and hopefully talk about some of your kind of award-winning bananas.
Yes, definitely.
So if you don't mind kicking off, can you give a little bit of an intro about who you are and a little bit about your backstory as well?
Sure. So my name's Mark Williams. As you said, I'm the CFO of Tropic. I've been there for 10 months now. I've got a mixed background. You can probably tell from my accent, I wasn't educated in the UK. I was educated in Australia. And after uni, I went chartered accounting. Back in those days, there were 6 firms. I ended up at KPMG. So I did that for my professional qualifications. And then I was lured into this sort of new thing that I'd never really heard of before, which was investment banking. I ended up being a banker for 20 years in Sydney and in Asia. And most of my time in that business was focused on capital markets. So I was raising capital for growth businesses, largely from the Asian region, but tapping investors and stock exchanges from all over the world. So we listed a lot of Chinese companies in the US and in Europe, for example. That whole journey finished in 2016. And so for the last 10 years, I'm now in my third company as CFO of a business which is loosely described as being in the sustainable food chain. And each of those have, like Tropic, been in the phase of moving from an R&D focused business to a commercial business. And so in the phase of taking their R&D and their technology and making a commercial success of it.
Fantastic. And you say this is your third stint in the sector.
Yeah.
Some may call you a glutton for punishment because it's not the easiest sector to be in. So I guess looking back, what drew you to it initially and what's kind of kept you here as well?
I think my first step out of finance, I was looking for a role where I could bring the skills that I had from finance. So, I guess I wasn't a traditional CFO that had been active in systems and reporting. It had been more the strategic side and the capital raising side. And the businesses I've worked for have really needed that, and that's where I sort of naturally fitted into the CFO space. It's also a lot easier to explain to your young children what you're doing when you're part of the sustainable food chain, and you can point to cool technology that's helping deliver benefits and impact. So it's much easier than explaining a bond deal or an IPO to your kids. So that was definitely a factor. But it's been very interesting in all 3 of those businesses to be part of a business, commercializing the technology. It spent years and lots of money developing.
Yeah. So your kids actually think Dad's pretty cool?
I wouldn't say that.
And for our listeners, obviously, I don't think Tropic's necessarily a well-known brand. So do you mind giving us a bit of background about the business?
So Tropic's been around for 10 years. It's based in the UK, up in Norwich, actually, where there is a lot of, between Norwich and Cambridge, there's sort of the centre of plant research in the UK. And they have focused on gene editing of crops. And during that process, or that time, they've developed specific technology which are very effective at gene editing. I will not try and explain any more of the science. But they will say that gene editing is not genetic modification because you're not bringing foreign matter into the plants. So you are editing the genome that is in there and redirecting some of the elements there to develop certain traits in those crops. Tropic has chosen to focus on tropical crops, hence the name Tropic, because they haven't traditionally been the areas that other gene editing businesses around the world have focused on. So our core products at the moment are banana and rice. And in banana, we have 4 lines, traits that were initially developed. The first of those is the non-browning banana, and that product has actually been launched. So in short, you peel the banana and it doesn't go brown, for 5, 7 days, 8 days, which is obviously very different to a normal Cavendish banana. So the application of that trait is very much in the consumer facing markets. And that will initially be available for sale later this year, actually, in North America, but probably more in fruit service businesses like chopped fruit salads and things like that. You go into M&S and you see dozens of cartons of chopped fruit, but none of them have chopped banana in there for obvious reasons, and our product will be able to change that. So that's our first product. We've sold the initial plants of those to customers, and they are growing the fruit, and they will be selling the fruit into North America. The next product line which we have, which is being launched right now, is our extended shelf life banana. It grows for longer on the tree, so the farmers can produce a higher yielding bunch of bananas. It also, because it stays green for longer, it can significantly reduce wastage in the supply chain, which is a big issue in agriculture. And it also helps prevent further wastage when the supply chain hits the end consumer market. So it gives the growers a lot of benefits because they're the ones who are sort of at risk for how high yielding it is and how much wastage there is in the system. So they're very excited to have a banana plant that helps them deal with those issues.
That's so interesting.
And then next year and the year after, we've got 2 more lines launching, which are both about disease resistance, which is a huge problem in the industry. I think the Philippines has lost 45% of their banana plantations in the last few years because of fusarium disease. Wow. And we have a plant which is proven resistance to that, which is going through final product development and will be for sale next year. Wow. And there's a further disease called black sigatoka disease, which is equally is punishing to the industry. And we've got in 2028 we'll be selling plants that are resistant to that. So we have a really interesting pipeline of banana plants which have traits for consumer benefits, for producer benefits, and all of these reduce wastage, and have a much greater impact on the current banana supply chain. Less waste, more sustainability.
That's so interesting. And obviously you've mentioned there are less areas of focus, I guess, across the industry, which is why you've picked bananas and rice, for example. But why specifically bananas and rice?
Well, I mean, the Cavendish banana hasn't been changed since it was introduced in the 1950s. So it's the same strain of banana that we've been eating for 80 years. There are, as I said, definitely scope for innovation there, and the growers and the end producers of the fruit and marketers of the fruit are very keen for innovation, but it just hasn't been the focus of the R&D world. So Tropic got there ahead of the rest and is now widely seen as the leader of gene editing or an innovation within the banana industry, which, let's face it, is an enormous industry, and a significant part of every supermarket's business.
Yeah. Well, my kids go through about 10 bananas a week, so.
Yeah. And you will probably be able to buy less because you can peel them, give them half, and come back to it tomorrow. Yeah. Which you can't do.
Yeah, excellent. That's so interesting. And to the consumer, nothing tastes different. Like, it's exactly the same as the other product.
I mean, part of without encroaching on the scientists' area, you can make changes to crops to deliver one trait. Mm-hmm. But if ultimately the agronomy is not the same, so the experience to the consumer is not the same, then there's no point developing that trait because there are existing supply lines, consumer expectations, they all have to be met. So everything goes through rigorous true to type testing before we even start approaching final product development.
Yeah. Okay, cool. And I guess taking a step back, because as you say, you've been trading for 10 years. Bananas are kind of going live, I guess, this year.
Yes.
That's quite a long life cycle, I think, in terms of looking at things from an investor relations perspective and fundraising, etc. So how difficult does it make that sector to operate in? Because, we're talking a decade before the business starts looking to commercialize.
whilst we're looking to make innovations into the plants that we work with, like bananas, ultimately there is a timeline which is governed by biology. So it takes certain periods of time to develop those traits and to do them within the regulatory standards that are set around that. And you're not producing revenue in those times. So yes, Tropic has had patient investors that have focused on the end game and have been very cognizant of what the development timelines are to reach revenue and to reach profitability. I would say those groups of investors are pretty rare, and you've got to be able to access those to be able to give access to the capital that you need to go through those timelines.
Yeah.
I think the other interesting element, debate it's brought up is, once you've developed a trait, do you take the quick route to market and you license it to someone else? Because then you don't have to spend the capital on full product development and launching a product. You can take the quicker route to revenue, but obviously it's a much smaller revenue stream because you're just licensing to someone else. Tropic took the, I would say, brave decision years ago that they weren't going to do that. It's not just going to be a licenser of the traits that they developed. Wanted to get full value through the value chain. Yeah. So Tropic has taken a strategic direction to move into the supply chain and become a seeds company. Big seeds companies around the world, so companies like Corteva, Bayer, Syngenta, they develop the traits, but they also then sell the plants to the producers, or the seed to the producers. And that's what Tropic has just, positioned its strategic direction for. So that's extended the timeline and increased the amount of capital that we've needed to do this. But we found that the investors are keen to do that because they see that that is the way to maximize the value proposition to shareholders by going further down the value chain and the supply chain.
And obviously your first, let's call it a year in the business, has been quite heavily focused around that fundraising. Yes. Has that been part of the story and part of the appeal for the success that you've had this year? Yes,
I think the investors we speak to have seen a number of businesses develop interesting traits in crops, fruits. There's actually a lot of businesses either through breeding or gene editing that have done that. And they've certainly seen that those businesses that have had the greater impact are those that have really taken control of their supply chain and not just license out the technology. So the investors see benefit in that, and they've been supportive of that. And actually they've been prepared to give us more capital to ensure that we can properly invest in the supply chain to make sure that we can supply the broader banana industry with the plants as opposed to just license them the technology.
Yeah. And where do people in your sector generally see success? Because I think a lot of people think investors and they go, their mind immediately goes to VC, PE, etc. But my gut feel is they like a shorter life cycle in terms of ROI. Or actually, is that still an option for you as a business?
Yeah, well, I mean, we're doing a fundraise now. We'll announce it shortly, but it's been successful, and we've raised money from venture capitalists. We've raised money from strategic interest. So, we've got, I'd say, a diverse investor base. The focus now is very much on executing the commercialization of these products successfully to make sure that they get properly launched into the market, they get the wide audience that they are capable of achieving, and that they have, they bring the innovation to the banana sector that it is looking for. So the near-term focus of our existing investors and our new investors is very much on making sure that we get that right. I think if you focus too much on, well, how are those investors going to monetize their investment, you can't really engage in that discussion until you've achieved your near-term plan. Yeah. So the focus now is all on giving us the support to increase the success of that execution.
Yeah. Are you able to partner with other businesses in similar sectors to you?
Yeah, I mean, in some so for in rice, for example, that business is likely to involve partners for us, and we are talking even in banana and other fruits now with some of our customers in the banana space because, they operate in multiple product lines and they are looking for innovation in some of those product lines as well. So, whilst we have developed these initial products on our own, I think now that we've got a reputation for doing it really effectively, you would likely see us doing future product development in conjunction with partners, yes.
Yeah, nice. I guess stepping back again, I think to kind of the wider sector, if you take, I don't know whether it's easier to look at this from a life science lens or agritech specifically, but what do you believe are the kind of current, real life challenges, but also I think the opportunities? We look, for example, at AI and technology at the minute, and I think life sciences has been badged as an area that can really benefit from this. So from where we are, I guess, right now in 2026, what do you feel like are the biggest challenges, and I guess where are the opportunities and solutions within that?
Within AI?
I think so, yeah. Yeah,
so, it's a big focus for us this year. It's a big goal at the company that all employees are focused on. I'm no expert here, but, what we're seeing is that there are opportunities at a very large scale when it comes to our bioinformatics and how we analyze the data and how we use predictive data to drive our development programs. And so that could have a really significant impact on the business and our timelines to successfully execute product development. So that's really exciting because as CFO, you then are able to point to initiatives that might shorten the development timeline, which is what you were referring to before, faster to revenue. And then there are, smaller scale projects which are delivering benefits within the supply chain. The agricultural supply chain is a very manual one and is one where, data-driven approaches that AI facilitates will certainly help improve efficiencies, reduce waste, which is, a significant issue. So, that's a whole other part of the business, but they are equally focused on working out how they can improve efficiencies with these, with technologies and processes. And I think as one of the elder employees in the company, we have a population of, innovative people who have really embraced this opportunity. And it's great to see all these ideas and successes come up to the senior leadership team and be communicated to us. And we're not having to drive a huge amount of it because the population is inherently finding these solutions themselves, which you'd expect in an innovative company like ours, but it's really pleasing to see.
That's so interesting because I think in most businesses, ours as well, it has to actually come from top down. We're in professional services ultimately. Yes. So you wouldn't necessarily call it an innovative sector. How do you then work out who champions it versus like everyone kind of going off on a bit of a... Yeah,
look, it's my observation coming into Tropic is that Tropic does this really well. Okay. The buzz phrase is intention-based leadership. And, that actually is not just a phrase at Tropic, it's what I've seen. I came in from a range of industries, and I came into Tropic and I saw that they had multiple projects which were all highly complicated, involved multiple departments, and year after year, if you go through the annual reviews, they've delivered on those projects to time and, largely to spec. Obviously it's R&D, so some things don't always work out, but typically Tropic has been able to stand at the end of the year and say, we were working on these 12 projects this year and we've achieved, 10 out of the 12 goals that we set ourselves. And my observation is that's not because you've got a really amazing group of 4 people at the top that are directing traffic effectively every day. It's because the population of 150, 160 people have a very clear understanding of what the objectives are. They know what their role in contributing to those are, which projects they're focused on. And, I've learned since joining Tropic that can be a very effective way of getting large teams to cooperate effectively because they know what the end objective are and they've all signed on to that end objective. There's a real risk with R&D businesses that people just like to explore. Yeah. And they've done a core piece of research and say, well, what's happened over there? Let's have a look at this as well. Yeah. And Tropic's been very effective at managing that by just making sure everyone is understanding what the objectives are and are aligned to achieving those.
Yeah.
So to get to your early point, what we're achieving now with the opportunities in AI, I think are being achieved using the same process that our product development has been used before.
Yeah.
People understanding what the end objective is,
Yeah.
And being given the freedom to come up with their ideas.
Yeah.
But making sure that they've got check-ins on the way to make sure they are contributing to those goals.
Yeah. What is the end objective that you've kind of communicated as your vision within the business? Because I think that is something a lot of people struggle with in your sector. To your point, they're research-led organisations. They are got some very bright people within the business doing some amazing things. But I think where a lot of businesses struggle that are particularly pre-revenue is how do you commercialise that and how do you get there as quickly as possible? Because if you don't get there quick enough, you struggle to get investment and then you just kind of run out of steam eventually. So I guess to my point, so what is that end vision and how have you made sure everyone's got on board with specifically that?
I mean, the vision of Tropic is to use technology-led improvements to tropical agriculture, which improve benefits for people and planet, producing products more efficiently and also benefiting the growers that are involved in that industry. Everyone understands that and signs up to it. Clearly, that requires us to have an effective product development pipeline and an effective commercialization of that product pipeline to make sure that, as I said before, these lines receive the audience that the maximum audience that they can have in the banana industry. So I think everyone's clear on that, and that's what they're working towards.
We had, I don't know if you've seen, we had a girl called Hannah, who's the CEO of Oxfordshire Green Tech, on our last podcast. And her job is essentially, the whole purpose of their business is to get organisations that are predominantly in pre-revenue to build a community where they can leverage each other's experience and essentially get them to an end goal quicker that's going to tackle the climate crisis. Yeah, I think one of the things that she says that people struggle with is coming from academia, but then turning this into a successful profit-making business. And I think it is trying to get people into that journey. Yeah. And I think it's hard. Yeah. I think it's hard.
I mean, I think one of the investments that Tropic has also made is an effective project management office.
Yeah.
So, I mean, a lot of people in there do have a science background, but they're not part of the science teams.
Okay.
As a senior leadership team, in conjunction with the board, we set the objectives for the next 1, 2, 3 years. What are our goals? And the project management office works with all the areas in the organisation to scope what that project needs to deliver on what timelines in order to achieve those goals.
Yeah.
And they are the ones who on a day-to-day basis are tracking those and working with the teams to make sure that we are achieving what we need to achieve to get those end timelines.
Yeah.
And it is an investment because I think in a lot of companies you leave the head of the science, relative respective science department to do that, but they're not necessarily inherent project managers. They're researchers. So by having that discipline and that resource dedicated to help track it, it's not just about tracking people, but also facilitating them.
Yeah.
Identifying how can we as an organisation help get this project back on track or whatever. Yeah, by having that investment, which is 5 people at Tropic out of 150, so it's a material investment. I think that has been a very effective way of reminding people what our objectives are and not just pounding the table saying this is your objective, you must achieve it, but giving them support and tools to achieve them.
To get there. And obviously, I think you've mentioned that you're in an area that is very prominent in the sector. We're a recruitment business. Obviously, we talk about talent quite a lot. So how do you go, you're based in Norfolk, which arguably is not the easiest to attract talent in the first instance, and then throw into the mix that a lot of your, I don't know if you would call them competitors, but competitors are also in the same geography. How do you attract and retain the top talent that's going to get you to that end goal? Yeah,
I think what drew Tropic to Norwich initially was the fact that the right people are available there, right? You've got several research institutes in the area focused on biology and plant. plant research, and a lot of our people have come through those institutions before landing at Tropic. So, yeah, initially I think for the early research phases, it was a real benefit, and it was a conscious decision to be there, and Tropic has definitely benefited from being based there. As the company's grown and we're focused on commercializing, we're also now acquiring businesses in the global supply chain, which means having businesses in Latin America and Southeast Asia, which is obviously very far removed from Norwich. So the population base is the center of gravity is moving, but still the vast majority of our people are based there. So when it comes to recruiting, I think within our product development and our scientific and our R&D side, there's still good grounds for finding the people with the right skill sets. I mean, I commute from the south of England, so I think once you get into senior leadership, you need to cast the net wider. And I think as we then, as I said, as we focus on commercial roles and on international supply chain roles, our scope for recruiting will be broader. Tropic will move from being a one location business to a multi-location global business very quickly.
Yeah. And you mentioned that you're about to sign off a site in London?
Yes, I mean we will have a temporary office space or whatever you call those access areas in London, just because our investor base is broadening. Norfolk is a 3-hour drive from London, so we need to meet with investors. It's often more efficient. A lot of the senior leadership team and increasingly commercial people and supply chain. We need to be able to meet as a group of people, and for a few days a week, that will make sense to not have to go up to Norwich to do that. Yeah.
Does this mean you're going to be travelling around the world shortly?
Look, I think a lot of our team already do travel, right? Because we've sold plants. We're selling to customers in Latin America and the Philippines. We have our own plantations, which are being hosted by other plantations in those markets. So we have a very well-travelled team already. We are, as I said, expanding our investment in the supply chain. So we will start to have our own sites in those countries. So yes, as I said, it's becoming a global business pretty quickly.
Yeah, very.
Our staff pool will broaden. We're definitely hiring a lot of Spanish speakers, as we have a significant presence in Latin America.
Yeah.
There's a lot of it's evolving. The population is evolving.
Yeah. And you mentioned you supply your products predominantly to America at the moment.
Well, we sell banana plants, right? So we sell them to plantations.
Yeah.
And those plantations use their existing supply chains to either they're fully integrated, they own the plantations and they own the distribution of the fruit, or they're plantations that sell the fruit to one of the big global fruit distributors, which sells to supermarkets. So we're not looking to break that existing marketing and distribution. We're looking to partner with those companies to supply them with plants that produce these new lines of crops with these new traits. So we're selling to the growers effectively.
Yeah. So it's not like you're selling direct to
No, we're not selling to Walmart.
in the UK.
But we're working with our customers to help develop the demand for the products with their end customers being food service companies, supermarkets and the like.
Yeah. Okay. What's the big focus between now and the end of the year then for you guys as a business?
We've got 10 months left of the year, so there's a lot.
Yeah.
We, as I said, non-browning banana plants are in the ground. So we're working with the customers who bought those plants and the customers that lined up to buy the fruit from those plants to further develop that market, so that we can continue to grow customer awareness and demand for that initial line. We, as I said, we have got significant sales coming in our second line, the extended shelf life.
Yeah.
So we're working with the initial growers of those plants to get them in the ground and track the progress of them and help them realize the benefits that the traits can bring. And then on the product development side, we're really excited about launching our first disease-resistant product next year. So all focus is on doing that. We're in the late stage trials. We've planted our mother plantations to be able to produce the plantlets that we then want to sell next year to these customers. So yeah, real excitement about having our first disease-resistant line in the market next year. And we've got a lot of milestones to achieve with rice this year, because as our initial rice traits get closer to commercialization, we can see real progress in our product development there. And as I hinted at earlier, we're working with partners who are established players in that market as we prepare for commercialization of those traits.
Yeah.
And obviously that is a product which has even broader reach than the banana.
Oh gosh, yeah, I'm sure. Do you know what the market valuation is for rice, for example, globally, if you get this?
Yeah, I think as a calorie count, it's in some markets it's up to 20% of calorie consumption comes from that. Wow. So yeah, I mean obviously it's a very diverse market. Yeah. And it's grown in a lot of places around the world, which is why I think working with partners is our strategy to maximize distribution and availability of those traits.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
All right, cool. And what's, I guess, the kind of long-term, I don't know what you want to call it, the kind of moonshot achievement for the business?
Tropic is clearly focused on being a global seeds company, which is bringing innovation to the tropical crops, tropical agricultural sector. As I said, that's been underinvested for innovation for years, and we see more product development capable in our existing crops. Yeah, we definitely have demand for development of traits in other tropical crops that have not had a lot of innovation in them. And another focus of Tropic is, we have our proprietary gene editing technology called jigs, and we apply that in our own product development for tropical crops. But it is equally applicable in a lot of other crops that other companies have spent years generating innovation through selective breeding. Mm-hmm. So we work with some of those biggest names to implement our gene editing technology into their product development pipelines for crops such as, corn, soy, tomatoes, carrots. We're working with those big global players to implement our technology into their product development pipelines. So whilst we will monetize and create impact through our own products, our technology is working in the product development pipeline of others to bring about other traits, disease-resistant or consumer-facing traits in other crops where they are already leaders, and it would not make sense for us to try and reinvent the wheel. Yeah.
It's fascinating. What is the future of food in the next decade if you guys, not just you guys at Tropic, but I guess the sector as a whole, get this right? Because it feels like the landscape will change enormously for the positive.
Yeah, I mean, if we achieve our goals, the product sectors that we work in will be able to produce the increased volume of food that it is required to do, but will materially reduce waste, materially improve efficiency, improve the value to those communities that are involved in producing that food, and also make them much more susceptible to disease, because the supply chains of food can be very susceptible to that. So they really shouldn't. I've always said that creating a more sustainable food chain doesn't have to change materially what people eat. You just need to produce what people naturally eat more sustainably, more efficiently, and obviously in greater volumes as the population increases. And so I think that's what we'll see. I don't think the consumer is going to see a massive change, because the consumer doesn't have appetite for a massive change in what they eat. But in the background, companies like us will have made it more efficient, more sustainable, and brought greater value to those involved in the production of that food.
Yeah. Fascinating. Well, Mark, from my perspective, that kind of wraps everything up, and that's been a really interesting talk, and hopefully very fascinating for our listeners as well. So Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate you've got a lot on your plate.
Thank you.
And for our listeners, that's another episode of Topline Talks. If you like what you hear, please do hit subscribe, and otherwise we'll see you for the next one. Thanks very much.